I was surprised that when zoomed out, all nouns are subjects or their objects, and I was more than surprised that there are 3 types of objects, not only 2. I was like, no way, upon realizing that tons of the words we think of as verbs aren't really verbs, and it blew my mind that numbers are actually adjectives, as are lots of other words we don't think of as adjectives. But when I saw what prepositions really are and what they really do, I almost went insane. How could they not have told us this? How could I not have noticed this? You know how I say demonstrative adjectives and demonstrative pronouns? Because saying demonstrative not only sounds super snobby, it doesn't convey as well what the demonstratives really are or what they really do. They demonstrate. Well, I'm not going to start calling prepositions prepositions, but maybe I should. Because saying prepositions does better convey what prepositions really are and what they really do. Prepositions have one job and one job only. They're prepositioners. Duh. Hola, soy Jordan, and this is a Spanish Quickie. Fast, easy Spanish lessons and English lessons from somebody who speaks your language. Before we get started, this is the 6th video in an 8-part series of videos about the 6 parts of speech. If you didn't understand everything I said a minute ago, nouns are either subjects or objects, numbers are adjectives, that stuff, you need to go back and watch the previous videos. Links to those and everything else I mentioned in this video are below this video or in the first comment. Now I gotta say, so far things have been pretty nice and neat. Showing you what nouns, verbs, adjectives, and adverbs are and how they work has been fairly straightforward. But it can't be like that with prepositions, because with prepositions, there's way too much going on. Not only do we not have enough time for everything in this video, we're not ready for it all yet, because half of what's going on with prepositions has more to do with how they work with the other parts of speech, or serve as the other parts of speech. So in this video, we're going to isolate prepositions as much as possible. We're going to stay fairly zoomed in most of the time. That's what this series is all about, the 6 parts of speech individually. Then in the next series, working together, we'll look at the big picture more. We'll zoom out, we'll zoom in, we'll look at prepositions every which way. Okay, for most of the last 20 years, if you had asked me what prepositions are, I would have said something like they're connector words. And prepositions are connector words, but as you'll see in the next video, conjunctions are connector words too. So defining prepositions as connector words isn't good enough. I also thought that prepositions are more closely related to verbs than they are to nouns. I even made a video called Prepositions with Verbs a few years back. And prepositions are related to verbs, but only because every word in a sentence is related to every other word in that sentence in some way. The relationship between verbs and prepositions does go beyond that, but at their core, prepositions are words or phrases that connect nouns to nouns. That's the main takeaway from this video. Prepositions connect nouns to nouns, so prepositions have way more to do with nouns than they do with verbs. Jimmy bought chicken. Take a second to imagine that. Now, Jimmy bought chicken in a box. The word chicken is a noun, and the phrase a box is a noun, then the word in is a preposition. Do you see how mechanically, in the words of the sentence, the preposition in connects a noun to a noun? It connects chicken and a box? That's what prepositions do. They connect nouns to nouns. But that's not the only way prepositions connect nouns to nouns. Prepositions also tell us how the 2 nouns are connected to each other logically in reality, how they're related to each other in reality. In this example, the preposition in tells us how chicken and a box are related to each other. Jimmy didn't buy chicken on a box, or under a box, or to the side of a box. Jimmy bought chicken in a box. But something else that's going on, and this is just another way of saying the same thing, the preposition in positions the first noun, chicken, in the second noun, a box. Again, not on a box, or under a box, or to the side of a box. The preposition in positions chicken in a box. Here's another similar example. Jimmy bought chicken in a restaurant. Now it's a restaurant instead of a box, but everything else is the same. The word chicken is a noun, the phrase a restaurant is a noun, and the word in is a preposition. Mechanically, in the words of the sentence, the preposition in connects 2 nouns. It connects chicken and a restaurant. Then, in reality, the preposition in tells us how chicken and a restaurant are related to each other, and more specifically, it tells us the first noun, chicken, is positioned in the second noun, a restaurant. Cool? Same thing as the previous example, right? Well, let's take a look at both examples together now. Jimmy bought chicken in a box. Take a second to imagine Imagine that. Then, Jimmy bought chicken in a restaurant. Now imagine that. In the first example, Jimmy bought chicken in a box. The chicken is in the box, right? But Jimmy is not in the box. Are we imagining the same thing? In the second example, though, Jimmy bought chicken in a restaurant. The chicken is in the restaurant, and Jimmy is also in the restaurant. Without even thinking about it, our normal human logic tells us, in the first example, only the chicken is in the box, but in the second example, Jimmy and the chicken are both in the restaurant. In other words, our brains are crazy. Next example, Jimmy bought chicken on a plate. Same thing basically. The preposition on connects two nouns. It connects chicken and a plate. Then in reality, the preposition on tells us how the two nouns are related to each other. More specifically, it positions the first noun, chicken, on top of and touching a plate. That's what Jimmy bought chicken on a plate means, right? On top of and touching. Before moving on, let's take a second to tie all this in with the big picture. We know that nouns do verbs to nouns. The man bought chicken. That's a noun, the man, doing a verb, bought, to a noun, chicken. But now with prepositions, we can connect nouns to nouns. We can connect a noun to the second noun, like we've been doing in this video. The man bought chicken in a box. The preposition in connects the nouns chicken and a box. Or we can connect a noun to the first noun, like the man from Ecuador bought chicken. Now the preposition from connects the nouns the man and Ecuador. To truly understand what's going on in this sentence, we have to look at it at least two different ways. When we zoom in on the phrase the man from Ecuador, that's two nouns connected by a preposition. The preposition from tells us how the man and Ecuador are related to each other. It positions the man as being from Ecuador. He was either born there or lived there or traveled from there, something like that. We can easily imagine this on a map. Here's the current location of the man, and we know he came from Ecuador, the country on the equator. But when we zoom out, this whole sentence together still just tells us a story about a noun doing a verb to a noun. The man from Ecuador is one big phrase serving as a noun. When we're zoomed out, the subject is the man from Ecuador, the verb is bought, and chicken is an object of some kind. If we made a silent movie for the man bought chicken and the man from Ecuador bought chicken, they'd be the same movie. They'd both show us a noun doing a verb to a noun, a man buying chicken. In reality, the man from Ecuador is still just a man. Now, so far in this video, I've only shown you examples where the preposition physically positioned one physical noun in relation to another physical noun. Chicken on a plate, chicken in a restaurant, the man from Florida. And I assume in the beginning, that's how things started out. But then as society and language developed alongside each other, we started using the same prepositions to position abstract nouns and to position nouns abstractly. Jimmy is reading a book on chickens. The phrase a book and the word chickens are nouns, and the word on is a preposition. So mechanically, the preposition on connects a noun to a noun. It connects a book and chickens. But in reality, this sentence isn't telling us that Jimmy is sitting on a bunch of chickens reading a book, or that Jimmy is reading a book with the book laying on chickens. In this context, the preposition on positions a book on chickens abstractly. Jimmy is reading a book on chickens really means Jimmy is reading a book on the topic of chickens, or Jimmy is reading a book on the subject of chickens. Even when prepositions aren't used to physically position anything, they still ooze this physical positioning vibe. No matter what context it's used in, the preposition on has a physical positioning vibe to it. Even when the positioning is abstract, there's still usually a way to imagine it physically. For the sentence, Jimmy is reading a book on chickens, I imagine a huge table like a craps table, but instead of having numbers on it and whatever else craps tables have on them, this table has every conceivable book topic listed on it. When the speaker says Jimmy is reading a book on chickens, I imagine them placing a book right on the spot that says chickens. Jimmy is reading a book on chickens. Another one, Jimmy has something against beef. The words something and beef are both nouns, and the word against is a preposition. Mechanically, the preposition against connects a noun to a noun. It connects something and beef. But in reality, this sentence isn't telling us that Jimmy is physically pressing something against a piece of meat. It's saying Jimmy's got a beef with beef. He has a reason for not liking beef. Even though the preposition against isn't being used to physically position anything here, it still oozes that physical positioning vibe. And I can still imagine this situation physically. This time, I imagine Jimmy with a huge list of pros and cons for beef on his wall. And on that list is at least one con. Jimmy has something against beef. Let's go back to Jimmy is reading a book on chickens. Another way to say that is Jimmy is reading a book about chickens. A book and chickens are both nouns, and about is the preposition connecting them. In this context, on and about mean the same thing, on the topic of or on the subject of. I'd say the preposition about is the preposition from which the physical positioning vibe is hardest to detect. But when I looked up the history of the word about by Googling etymology about, I quickly saw what was going on. Originally, the word about meant on the outside of or around the circumference of. Remember, words don't mean words, they don't have specific set meanings? Well, the central core idea that about represents is around. Basically, words don't mean words. And we do use about and around interchangeably in at least two situations. Jimmy is always meandering around. Jimmy is always meandering about. Or, the chicken costs about $10, the chicken costs around $10. So, about can mean around, in the vicinity of, approximately, anything like that. Now, in these sentences, the words around and about are serving as adverbs, not prepositions. I just wanted to show you that contrary to how it seems when it's used as a preposition, the word about basically means around, because once you know that, the physical positioning vibe is more apparent. So for the sentence, Jimmy is reading a book about chickens, I imagine that same craps table from before with every possible book topic listed on it, but now instead of placing a book on the spot that says chickens, the speaker draws a circle around the spot that says chickens. Jimmy is reading a book about chickens. Bottom line, prepositions position one noun in relation to another noun, and even when the positioning isn't physical, prepositions still usually emit a strong physical positioning vibe. Now, throughout this video, some examples might have popped into your mind with prepositions that don't connect a noun to a noun. Like, Jimmy bought shoes for running. I showed you this example in a previous video about verbs, because running, the ing form of to run, kinda sorta seems like a verb here. But if running were a verb here, the preposition for would be connecting a noun to a verb. It would connect shoes and running. In this case, since you saw the video about verbs, right, you already know what's going on. The word running isn't a verb. The ing form of a verb doesn't count as a verb. Only conjugated verbs count as verbs. The word running is serving as a noun here. Jimmy bought shoes for running really means Jimmy bought shoes for the act of running, or Jimmy bought shoes for the purpose of running. Running represents the act of running or the purpose of running. And now it's clear the preposition for does indeed connect two nouns. It connects shoes and running. Then there's stuff like, for running, Jimmy bought shoes. Even when we know that running is a noun, it seems like the preposition for is connecting nothing to the noun running. What's going on is, the words in this sentence are out of order. Of course, there's no right order or wrong order, but whenever a clause or sentence doesn't start with the subject, that clause or sentence is out of order. When the words in a sentence are out of order, all we have to do is rewrite the sentence with the words in order. In this case, we rewrite for running, Jimmy bought shoes, as Jimmy bought shoes for running. Now the sentence starts with the subject, Jimmy, and now the preposition for connects a noun to a noun. It connects shoes and running. A more realistic example of this out of order thing is, for you, I would do anything. Since this sentence starts with a preposition, not the subject, we know it's out of order. So we simply rewrite for you, I would do anything as I would do anything for you. Much better. Now it starts with the subject, I, and now the preposition for connects a noun to a noun. It connects anything and you. Then, I hate to even bring this up, but there are just too many examples of it out there. We'll talk about this a lot more in the next series, Working Together. But right now, real quickly, Jimmy ate chicken at a restaurant. The subject is Jimmy, the verb is ate, chicken and a restaurant are both nouns, and at is a preposition that connects chicken and a restaurant. Yeah? But then, in the same situation, the speaker could just say, Jimmy ate at a restaurant. This time, the speaker omitted the noun chicken. So it seems like the preposition at connects a verb to a noun. It connects ate and a restaurant. What's going on here is, the second sentence is missing context. It isn't telling us everything. We know that's the case because the second sentence doesn't tell us what Jimmy ate, but our normal human logic tells us, in reality, it's impossible to eat nothing. You can't eat nothing. That's not eating. The second sentence is missing context. When a sentence with missing context confuses us, we can use whatever context we do have to fill in the missing context. In this case, we know that Jimmy ate chicken, so we can rewrite Jimmy ate at a restaurant as Jimmy ate chicken at a restaurant. No more missing context. What Jimmy ate is accounted for. And now the preposition at clearly connects a noun to a noun. It connects chicken and a restaurant. Even if we don't have any additional context though, even if we don't know what Jimmy ate, we still know he ate something. We still know he ate some sort of food. Again, that's just how eating works. When a sentence with missing context confuses us, and we don't have any normal context to fill it in with, we can use what I call default context. Since we know that Jimmy had to eat something, or he had to eat some sort of food, we just say that. Jimmy ate at a restaurant really means Jimmy ate something at a restaurant, or Jimmy ate food at a restaurant. Either way, something and food are both nouns, what Jimmy ate is accounted for, and the preposition at clearly connects a noun to a noun. It connects something and a restaurant restaurant, or food and a restaurant. If you didn't totally get all that, it's okay. We'll go over tons of examples of missing context and default context in the next series. Right now, you'll just have to take my word for it. When we see a preposition without a noun before and after it, we know either a word that doesn't seem like a noun really is a noun, Jimmy bought shoes for running, or the words are out of order, for running, Jimmy bought shoes, or the sentence is missing context. It's missing a noun, Jimmy ate at a restaurant. One last thing before we call it a day. While everything I've told you in this video is entirely true, otherwise I wouldn't have told it to you, and everything works exactly how I've been showing you, from everything I've read, it's not the reason prepositions are called prepositions. It seems prepositions are called prepositions for a much simpler, more mechanical reason. Prepositions are words or phrases that are positioned in a sentence before a noun. Positioned before, preposition, preposition. Jimmy bought chicken on a plate. The phrase a plate is a noun, so the word on is positioned in the sentence before a noun. That's why it's called a preposition, preposition. In fact, some languages have something called postpositions instead of prepositions. Some languages even have both prepositions and postpositions. English is one of those languages actually, though postpositions aren't nearly as common as prepositions. Jimmy will buy chicken in 3 years. Chicken is a noun and 3 years is a noun, so the word in is positioned before the second noun. That's why in is called a preposition, preposition. But then Jimmy bought chicken 3 years ago. Chicken is still a noun and 3 years is still a noun, but now the word ago is positioned after the second noun. That's why ago is considered a postposition. Postpositions are just like prepositions. They still connect nouns to nouns. They just oddly do it from after the second noun instead of from before the second noun. That's weird, I know, but it's language for you. Crazy language. In Spanish, they do something similar with adjectives. Many Spanish adjectives can be placed before or after a noun, so they can say the equivalent of good boys or boys good, which can mean the same thing or something subtly different depending on how they're used, a topic covered in my premium course, Logical Spanish. And postpositions still position a noun on a noun, just like prepositions do. Again, they just do it from after the second noun. Jimmy will buy chicken in 3 years. I can imagine this on a timeline. The preposition in positions the first noun, chicken, in the future by the second noun, 3 years. It positions chicken to the right 3 years. Then Jimmy bought chicken 3 years ago. Again, on a timeline, the postposition ago positions the first noun, chicken, in the past by the second noun, 3 years. It positions chicken to the left 3 years. Now I gotta say, the Spanish authority will usually tell you that in this context, the word ago is an adverb. Some dictionaries even list ago as an adverb and only as an adverb. And that's fine, it's not a huge deal for reasons I'll explain to you in the next series, but it's not true. Remember, adverbs are words or phrases that tell us more about a verb, or an adjective, or another adverb. Jimmy bought chicken quickly. Jimmy bought chicken happily. Jimmy bought chicken often. Jimmy bought chicken never. Jimmy bought chicken yesterday. Jimmy bought chicken already. The words quickly, happily, often, never, yesterday, and already are all serving as adverbs here. They all tell us more about the verb bought. How did Jimmy do the buying? He did it quickly. He did it happily. How frequently did Jimmy do the buying? He did it often. He did it never. When did Jimmy do the buying? He did it yesterday. He did it already. But then Jimmy bought chicken 3 years ago. When did Jimmy do the buying? Ago? That doesn't work. The word ago isn't an adverb. It's not like quickly, happily, often, never, yesterday, and already. It's more like the word in. Jimmy will buy chicken in 3 years. When did Jimmy do the buying? In? That doesn't work. To use the words in and ago, we need another noun. We need 3 years. Because in and ago aren't telling us more about a verb directly like adverbs do. The words in and ago are connecting nouns to nouns. They tell us how one noun is positioned in relation to another noun. In is doing it from before the second noun, it's a preposition, and ago is doing it from after the second noun, it's a postposition. Even when somebody admits that ago is a postposition, they'll often claim that ago is the only postposition in English. But again, that's just not true. Jimmy bought chicken back 3 streets. The word chicken is a noun, the phrase 3 streets is a noun, and back is a preposition that connects chicken and 3 streets. The preposition back tells us how chicken and 3 streets are related. The chicken is back 3 streets. But then Jimmy bought chicken 3 streets back. Chicken and 3 streets are still nouns, and the word back is still positioning chicken back 3 streets. It's just now back is a postposition because it's positioned after the second noun, not before it. Tons of words that serve as prepositions can also serve as postpositions. So if you read or hear anybody ranting about how ago isn't a postposition or it's the only one, just ignore them. It's not even worth arguing. So really, I guess I should say that the 6 parts of speech are nouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs, adpositions, adpositions and conjunctions. Adpositions being the general group that prepositions and postpositions belong to. Prepositions and postpositions are both specific types of adpositions. So there are adjectives, adverbs, and adpositions. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to stick with calling prepositions a part of speech, and I'll include postpositions with prepositions, though I reserve the right to change my mind later. A reminder, there is more going on with prepositions than I've explained in this video, but it's more, not instead of. What I've shown you in this video was mostly the zoomed in view. We looked at prepositions in isolation as much as possible. The rest of what's going on has more to do with how prepositions work with the other parts of speech, which is why we're going to look at all that in the next series working together. And even though there are still 2 videos left in this series, there's only one more part of speech we need to talk about, conjunctions, the other type of connector word. To make sure you don't miss the next video, subscribe to the Spanish Dude newsletter. When you're subscribed to the Spanish Dude newsletter, not only will you get an email whenever I post a new video, you'll also get special videos and private discounts that non-subscribers just don't get. Subscribe at SpanishDude.com/newsletter. You can find me on YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram at the links on the screen right now and below this video or in the first comment. And if you're picking up what I'm laying down in these videos, check out my premium course, Logical Spanish. In Logical Spanish, we do all the same stuff we're doing in these videos, but in Spanish. Logical Spanish is my most comprehensive course. If you're looking for a track to run on, do this, then that, in this order, Logical Spanish might just be for you. Find out at SpanishDude.com/logical. Okay, get out of here. Then I'll see you next time. Hasta luego. Adios, amigo.